some Red Sox thoughts. This team is blowing me away. How much they've given up on the season and given up on the team already. And I think Sam Kennedy there, Mazz, admitting that they've set parameters for Craig Breslow is another example, another sign of them quitting. What team, what front office, what ownership group admits that they give their general manager a budget? I mean, they all do. They all do, right? But they all say the same thing. Money's not going to stand in the way. Mm-hmm. Whatever, as the Kraft would say about Bell, whatever Bill's asked for, we've given him. That's typically what an owner says. An owner says that there's nothing going to stand in the way of us winning. And whatever the baseball people ask for, we're going to provide because we're committed to winning. They lie. Because obviously owners set budgets. And then it's the manager's job to work within those budgets. But they never admit it. Since when do they admit it? And Sam Kennedy yesterday admitted it?
Why is that a bad thing?
Oh, it's not a bad thing.
Oh, all right.
To me, it's a sign that they've given up, though. Like, they care so little about this team, they're willing to admit to you that, yeah, there's a budget.
Well, I'll tell you this, though. Like, I actually look at it a little bit differently than you do, and I'll tell you why. Because they're finally taking the responsibility for it. They're not dumping it on the executive like they did on High and Bloom. And maybe now someone will actually take a job here because they are making it clear that the executives haven't been running running or making the decisions here over the last several years.
Well, so
you follow me? In other words, how many GMs do you have to go through before you finally acknowledge that you're the one setting the payroll?
I think they've been kind of, by their standards, telling the truth for the last week. This started with the Breslow comment that we discussed last week, Mazz, where Breslow's asked, do you think you want to tell your fans that do you think you're a playoff team? And he goes, it's kind of foolish to basically telling you he doesn't think they're a playoff team. So he wasn't going to lie and tell you that he thinks they're a playoff team. And now Sam Kennedy isn't going to lie and tell you that Breslow's free to spend whatever he wants.
All right, so yeah.
So they're telling the truth. So I have no problem with Kennedy telling the truth. I'm just telling you, I think the fact that they're willing to tell you the truth tells you they really don't give a they've given up on the thing.
No, they have. There's no question. I mean, again, the product on the field tells you that.
But it also tells you there's a lack of communication within their own ownership group. Why did you have last fall Tom Werner talking about like full throttle and spending? What the hell?
Couldn't agree more.
So that part I find confusing. So great, you're being more honest. You're going to suck and you're owning your sucking. But why was one of your owners saying like full throttle and we're going to spend and all of that?
The answer, if you listen to John Tomasi, we'll play the cut coming up. He reported this over the weekend. Tomasi believes there is a split, a schism in the upper reaches of the Red Sox organization. That there are people, high-level Red Sox executives and ownership group personnel, including Tom Werner, who wanted to spend, thought they were going to spend, and John Henry put the kibosh on it, and there's a split among ownership. That's John. So that John Tomasi says that's why Tom Werner says full throttle. And then they don't do anything because Werner thought they were going to spend, and Henry put the kibosh to it, which is another side. Like, what the hell's going on over there?
Well, again, yeah, that one I completely agree with. They're not on the same page. So the question is why? And I heard the Tomasi comment, too, and he makes a good point. So they weren't on the same page. Henry's the principal owner, and Werner decided to go public with it anyway? That doesn't make sense. Like, he had no control over it. So why did he do it? Maybe it's just as simple as he was out of touch. Maybe that's what it is. I mean, I feel like in the last week or two, they've had some type of, I'll say come to Jesus, but some sort of meeting over there about how they were going to handle it from a management standpoint, because Sam has been blunt, Cora has been blunt, Breslow has been blunt. Seriously.
No, Cora had a great one. Cora's one yesterday was, hey, look, I'm paraphrasing. We'll play you the sound coming up. Cora said yesterday something along the lines of, hey, look, every team goes through stretches. You go through good stretches and bad stretches. We all can't be the Dodgers. Basically telling you, yeah, we suck now.
Yeah, I think he was asked what his message was to the team. Because he addressed the team yesterday, and he said, he went through all that stuff and said, we got to remember who we are. We're not going to be the Dodgers. Okay, and so I'm paraphrasing, but it all spun out of that. And so they're all of a sudden now, everyone's being very clear. Like they're all on the same page.
Well, everyone except Henry, so don't you think?
Except the players, too.
Go ahead.
Clearly, Devers is pissed. He went and spoke to them. They gave him the message. He's like, I don't like it. So good for him for speaking up. When did it become okay to just pack it in and quit?
It's insane.
With a $200 million payroll.
It's crazy how.
When did that become okay?
How they've just given up on a team that isn't that far away from being a playoff team. And as we know in baseball, you make the playoffs, anything can happen. You can go on a run and make it interesting. It's happened over and over again the last several years. They're projected to win 80 games. Like those are the algorithms. Those are the Pacoda projections. 80 wins. 85 can get you in the playoffs. Diamondbacks had 84 wins last year. They went to the World Series. And instead of saying like just a little bit more, they've all basically folded their tent. It's insane to me.
If they just signed Jordan Montgomery, okay, and I'm not telling you Jordan Montgomery is any great shakes, but he's a solid, capable major league pitcher. Okay, he's a middle of the rotation guy who can creep into the high end, and number 2.5 starter, number 2 starter at his very peak, but just over the middle. But he's a legit big league starter. If you add him and catch a break in your rotation, you're in it. You're in it.
So here's my guess, Mazz. That Henry has turned the faucet off because Henry's managing the portfolio. Henry's in charge. He's trying to buy a basketball team in Vegas and whatever, like all the other crap that he's doing, and fund the PGA Tour and fund the Penguins and Liverpool and all the things that we're talking about. So it's a portfolio. He's lost passion for the Sox. The Sox are just going to be a business holding. That's his decision. Everyone else around him knows it now. And it's their quiet form of sort of rebelling, or it, because again, it's known now that Warner and Henry are not on the same page. So Warner's probably let that be known somehow. As you say, there's no more salesmanship. It feels like Sam Kennedy's not trying to sell us on anything. He's telling you there's a budget, and the only thing we can do is do to change the narrative is to win. But in the meantime, there's parameters. And Cora is saying, oh, yeah, well, not everyone can be the Dodgers. And Rafi Devers, it's like, there's things to be said, but I can't say them. It's like, I don't know. I think they're all sort of rebelling against John Henry.
Probably. Yeah, and again, look, that can be a motivator, too. Like, I don't know what it can actually do to make your players better, other than sharpen their focus a little bit, and maybe they can perform a little bit better for a time. I don't think they have the horses at the moment to be able to contend the best teams in the league. So if they're pissed, good. They should be pissed. Their fans have been pissed for 4 effing years. They've been a 500 club for 5 years. 5 effing years since they last won a World Series, a 500 club.
Don't you think that's what, I mean, think of it there. Breslow last week said, we all know this hasn't transpired the way I thought it would. So he came in thinking the full throttle thing. That's what, he was either led to believe it or just believed it himself. And last week he actually said this hasn't transpired the way that I anticipated.
I think some of that also relates to moves that he wanted to make, in part the money, and in part realizing that his farm system isn't as good as he thought it was. That's just my 2 cents.
So I'm wrapping into the Henry thing, that I think Breslow, Kennedy, Warner are sort of acting out a little bit towards John Henry is what I think.
Yeah, look, again, I don't dispute any of that. I mean, they're pissed. People are pissed. Subtly, they should be pissed.
Subtly sort of saying, hey, don't look at me. We thought we were going to do this, and we didn't do it, and it's because the old man doesn't want to do it. So, another down year.
Mike, that comment from Sam is as blunt and direct as you will ever hear him. Because, and Sam, God love him, I think the world of him, but he tries to spin everything. And it ends up coming off as corporate, doublespeak, bullcrap. Fans see through it. People get more enraged. It backfires and blows up in his face. This was, the money is what it is. There's nothing I can say. What do you want me to do? We're stuck where we are. Until we win games, you're going to be mad.
He said the questions are fair.
100%.
He said the questions about the money are fair. A Red Sox executive who, before this would say anyone who thinks All right, well, if you just asked Sam Kennedy 2 weeks ago, anyone who says that we're not committed to winning is a liar. Well, he sure changed his tune. 2 weeks later, now it's, hey, any of those questions are fair. I understand them. I think they've turned on Henry a little bit.
Yeah, again,
at least they've said, we're done answering for you. This is your decision. This is what it is, and this is how we're going to approach it.
See, I think they should have done this from the beginning. Just tell people what you're doing. And again, what, because you're worried about ticket sales? You're clearly not worried about them that much because your team blows.
How long's it been since that a-holes actually spoke?
Oh, God, I don't know.
Oh, it was the Betts trade, I think.
So 4 years ago?
I mean, taking questions. So, I think he's done email interviews with, Silverman.
He did that town meeting last year.
And the town meeting, but I guess I was reading the last time he actually was in a press conference setting where he just openly fielded questions was either 2020 or 2019. One of those years.
They should look. I've told you this before. If I were him, I wouldn't talk either. He tells the truth, and people don't want to hear it apparently. But I mean, they're doing it now. I just don't understand why it is so offensive for someone to come out there and say we're rebuilding, especially when the ballpark is a freaking gold mine, and there are going to be people coming in from every other market and buying tickets. Am I wrong to think that?
No.
Am I wrong to think that they should just own up to what they're doing and we're going to build, or should they lie? I'm asking you.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's lying anymore.
But I'm talking about the past.
Okay, well, of course they shouldn't lie. They can't help themselves. They couldn't help themselves. This is the first time that they're actually,
I know,
sort of by their standards, telling it like it is.
I've been covering the Red Sox for 30 years, and I've been telling them the same thing for 30 years. Just tell the truth. Tell the truth.
So why is it coming out now? And I think it's because
it might be.
Tomasi's talking about is true. That they are not on the same page down there anymore.
I mean, again, I'm throwing my hands up.